stupid Ringmaster who's not even out yet that they developed before they even did this kind of thing.
Slacks is gonna have a fucking aneurysm on this patch, I'll tell you that. Hey guys, this is Cap and this is Avery, and we're here bringing you a new show called Not For Broadcast that is going to give you content twice a week to be able to talk about all the ins and outs of what's going on in the Dota 2 system, the Dota 2 world, any patch updates, any drama that's going on, the Esports update. We're going to be here twice a week to let you know what's happening.
Absolutely. There's always something happening in Dota, and we're going to be bringing it to you on Tundra's channel as we partner with them. So very excited to see how we can expand and grow this show over time and really bring you the best of all the drama out there as fast as possible, as consistently as possible, and with as much ranting as possible.
Yes. I think that's the one feedback that we've gotten is everybody wants more SVG rants.
Oh, I got a lot. I got a lot of rants.
He's got a lot of pent-up anger.
I got a lot today. Patch day.
It's patch day. So that's going to be the first episode here on the Tundra channel. We're going to talk about all the new shit that's in the patch. Let's just bare bones it. Every hero now has a passive, an innate ability. About 40% of them, I would guess, are taking a pre-existing passive that they already had and just giving it to them at level 1, a weaker version of it at level 1, and then you could still level it up. But then like the other 60% of the field are getting an ability that was maybe like an old ability, like Omni Knight. Omni Knight has his Degen Aura at level 1. Some of them just have like this really weird effect, like Dawnbringer giving vision at the start of daytime for 5 seconds, or Oracle letting you know which side the power room.
Yeah, so basically Valve just added a bunch of map hacks in the game because everybody was too garbage at Dota, apparently.
Yeah.
40% of those are reused from old patches. They didn't even make them new. 40% they stole from Han.
Yeah,
the last 20% was just the janitor who came up with them last night before they shipped it. So a really tremendous job. Yeah, that's the devil's advocate version of this patch. I actually think it's a pretty interesting patch from the standpoint of they made a map patch with the new frontiers.
Yeah.
There was maps and objectives, right? And then they made this patch, which is heroes, passives, and facets, but didn't touch the map or the objectives or the economy, which is very different than what they've done in the past, which is they just threw everything in together and people were like, oh, overwhelmed, too much info, what can I do? Now they kind of delineated it out. Maybe it makes it easier for them to balance it as well. But it makes it more straightforward. Like if you're looking at this patch, it's pretty straightforward. Just every hero got a passive, they got a facet choice, and that's it.
Yeah.
There wasn't much else.
I would say 90% of the hero pool got buffs.
Oh yeah. Well, everybody just got more stuff.
Yeah. I think almost every single hero in Dota got more stuff to do, more stuff to choose, because we have these two different like facets that you choose what kind of game you're going to be playing at the very start.
Yeah, you're going to feed 10 times, or watch your teammate feed 10 times and be useless as well.
Got to play the Witch Doctor.
You got to get that Witch Doctor.
Hit the
Gree. Hit that Gree in there. That Grizz.
Which means that the heroes that got a nerf off of this change, I think they got really nerfed because everybody else got buffs. And the heroes that I first think of when it comes to mind is Visage. Visage seemed to get like weirdly nerfed. Bristleback seems worse, where it's just like you either lost right click damage or you lost your quills on the
though that good thing could be interesting for like a 3-position bristle, just joining mass queen everybody. That one I'm still out on. I also think people overreact on day 1 of the patch. Like, oh, this is complete trash and unplayable. This is obviously broken. Yeah, there's always some broken stuff on day 1, but like there's going to be some letter patches in a week. Stuff will even out. People will figure stuff out, and it takes a year usually for you to figure out the bare bones of a patch. So that part I think is interesting. I like the facets. I like that idea. I like the passives, a lot of them. Bringing old stuff back is kind of cool. Rewards players for sticking around for a long time. What I don't like, though, is this stupid Eternal Shroud item. Like, please. Why are heroes
but Avery,
so
they
tanky?
nerfed it.
I don't... Like, what is this thing of every hero has to be able to survive 30 spells in a fight? I get it from a concept standpoint of you want the fights to last longer because then it's more interesting for the viewer. These like
there's more play and counterplay.
Exactly.
Right.
That part I like.
Back and forth.
But I think there has to be some way to accomplish that without having every hero just tank up.
Yeah.
Maybe there isn't. I don't know. I'm not a bounce expert, but like, it's like, you know, it's like you want the dynamicness to draw the fight out, not the I smash into you and you smash into me, but I had 10,000 EHP and you only had 8,000. So ha ha ha, dumbass, you lose. You know, it's like that's what it feels like in some of these games, and I don't think that aspect has changed at the start. However, again, that could change down the road. Like we're day one, so I'm not going to judge that.
Sure.
But we did have a game. We had 2 series today at DreamLeague. And since players are going to play what they know, they're playing what they know from the old patch. And we were seeing a similar thing where like you have these primal beasts and Centaur, one War Runner who's getting an extra 40 HP every 2 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And these heroes that are getting like Slardar extra armor on top of everything. And some of these facets and passes are just adding even more HP to heroes that already had an insane amount of HP.
Yeah. And nothing to balance that out too much. I mean, it does feel like everybody got buffed, so there are a lot of heroes that just flat out do more damage. Unfortunately, that also applies to some of the tank heroes as well. And that these tanky heroes also now have some sort of like a lot of them got some sort of scaling. Like as you get more strength, you get more of this. Like Axe gets more one of his facets, right? He gets more strength based off of how much armor he has. Right? If he's alone.
He also just gets more armor from kills in general because you had the dunk before, now you don't.
Yeah.
Like, if the tanky heroes are scaling their damage and the damage heroes can't scale their tank, then it feels like you're always going to get pushed in the direction of which is just overall better, which if effective HP can match damage output of some of these agi carries, you're always going to skew towards them. Yeah. Like, why would I pick a Phantom Assassin with 2,000 HP that gets instantly bursted in a fight if she messes up once to maybe bring down the Primal Beast with 5,000 effective HP when the Primal Beast is also just killing me equally as fast, right?
Yeah.
That part I don't think has necessarily been shifted that much, and that's my biggest concern. But I'm always, a pessimist because I played this game for 15 years, and at this point I'm like, stop patching the game. It's too much.
Yeah. It beats you down.
I think this is a direction where because they went with a single direction in the patch, it should be very easy to tune it very quickly.
Yeah.
And therefore, we can end up in a much better spot a lot faster, which some of the older patches, I think, took a very long time because, again, you threw in, like, we're going to give every hero new spells and change all their old spells and change all the items and change the map and overhaul the economy and the kill deaths and the buybacks and right. And when you do that, it's like, how do you tune that patch quickly? This patch, to me, if I'm balancing, I feel like I can tune it within a week. I can look at the data. Obviously, this, Templar Assassin with this facet choices, 10% increased win rate compared to 2. Okay, we shift them, right?
Right, because all the other variables are mostly the same. The map didn't change at all.
Yes.
Very few items got changed. Eternal Shroud is one of the most popular items. It got nerfed by 100 gold, right? So it's like everything else is mostly the same. So that will give you, isolates those variables that allows you to be able to read these facet and the win rate changes that have occurred in this new patch. You can read them with some degree of accuracy.
Right.
I also think that another part of this that I do really like is the fact that I like even though the Dota, the game didn't change that much, a lot of the changes that Valve is proposing to these heroes, I think it is the right way to balance, especially Dota, is to put a lot of just throw shit out there and just react, right? Like there's going to be some stuff that is in the game that is broken, right? Like we read through the patch notes and we're just like, oh, that looks broken. That looks crazy. And sure, it sucks for the pro players who have to play a tournament like immediately afterwards. But I do think it's a good way to be able to create change in the game is just throw a bunch of like crazy stuff in there and then like balance it out in the next week or two, right? I would much rather see big changes that are scaled down rather than, make slow changes and build them up the other way. I think that's probably a better way to take Dota.
I mean, I think most general balance teams prefer that direction. I mean, the question is anything actually that overtuned? Like, I think there probably are 5 or 10 heroes. Like, the numbers on them are just kind of bonkers. Gyrocopter's just getting perma haste in fights, and certain heroes, there's probably too much mana off the Timbersaw trees and stuff. with the second chakra. But I don't feel like there's much in this patch that stood out to me as like, it's going to be first pick forever, and everything else is unplayable in comparison. I almost feel like the changes aren't as severe as some of the past patches where, like, you had Boomerang patch. Just like, what the hell is going on here? You had these like Sniper who, just like, what the hell is going on? Like, some of these were just so broken compared to everything else. This just feels like they're tuning heroes all slightly up together, which means the things that stand out won't be so far ahead of everything else in the game it just completely breaks it. That's my gut read.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually going to prove to be true. I mean, we'll see. We'll see what happens. I think there's definitely some broken stuff in there, but maybe not to some degree of the extremes that we've had in Dota. One thing, like when you were thinking about like the extremes of like what the hell is that? I think of some of the heroes that have been introduced in Dota, and like how those heroes were incredibly overtuned. Earth Spirit, Monkey King are the first two that come to mind, and that got me thinking. Oh yeah, we didn't get a new hero. Which is pretty interesting. Sure. I mean, every hero has this new identity, so I understand if Valve don't want to throw too much on there. This gives them... it seems like they're spacing out the content, right? The first...
they're spacing it out. That's for sure. A lot of space.
They put in the Battle Pass, right? And everybody thought that was going to be the big patch initially, and then it was just like this Battle Pass. And now with the second part of the Battle Pass, they bring in the patch. And I assume they're saving the new hero.
Yeah, they're saving Ringmaster for after Deadlock comes out in 6 years. It's going to be great. By the time this stupid Ringmaster hero comes out, they're going to have to add like 8 things to him because there will have been 4 patches like this by the time they develop the hero.
Yeah.
Like, they probably developed this hero, and now they're going to have to go back and add facets.
I was thinking the same thing.
Stupid Ringmaster who's not even out yet, that they developed before they even did this patch.
Yeah, they created a hero, and then they're like, "Wait, we have to do more with this."
Like,
hero.
is there just like a
passive
back room developer lounge where there's like 10 unreleased heroes being tested against each other, and they keep having to bounce update them, but the game keeps progressing before they can release them? It just keeps falling farther and farther behind.
Yeah,
is that the point we're at? The game is too complicated even for new shit to come out.
Yeah, that might be it.
We were the clowns all along. I agree. Where does it stop? That's another argument. Is there too much complexity in Dota?
I mean, yeah, it's 100%. There is definitely too much complexity in Dota. But it did. I almost feel like, in a way, you can't go back.
No, you can't.
Right? Because the player base that you have, like, you would have wanted to go back. If this was a new game, you would say this is far too complex, right? But you are building on top of things that have existed, and the player base that has existed for the last 10, 15 years. They want more things. If you dumb down Dota,
yeah, people lose
even
interest.
though people like to be nostalgia and be like, oh, I miss the old days of Dota and stuff like that, I almost guarantee like 95% of the player pool would hate it if we went back to an older version of Dota.
So I think that the counter argument is like, the more complex you make it, it's harder for people to return to the game. And it's harder for new people to get into the game. Okay, my thought on that is there's nobody new getting into Dota. There hasn't been anybody new getting into Dota for years. It's a very small trickle. It's like 20 people a week or something. I don't know what the official number is, whatever the hell it is. Who gives a damn? There's nobody new coming into Dota. There never will be. The game's way too goddamn hard to learn. The learning curve is way too steep. Why am I going to spend 3 years of my life like Grubby to learn to get to 6K MMR, to get blasted with toxicity, to go back to my RTS when I can pick up Mobile Legends Bang Bang or whatever in like 2 hours and play some casual game online with my friends? It's just not going to happen anymore. Yeah. The age of TikTok is here. People don't have the attention spans to go through the goddamn 600-page rulebook that is Dota 2 and learn it.
Yeah,
it's not going to happen. So fuck the new players, right? Get that argument out of my face.
Okay, but there are returning players. Right?
Fuck them too, honestly. Like, when that guy comes back, make him learn a bunch of new shit, or he's not coming back in the first place. And the player retention for Dota has stayed stable for a long time. Think of how many crazy patches we've had through the last 5 years alone that have overhauled the game. Mm-hmm. People just lost their minds. Like, I don't even know what's happening. And guess what? The player base,
okay, that's not entirely
flat as a table.
True.
Flat as a table.
You do get like
clearly
there is the ceiling of like there is a group of like 200 to 300,000 players out there who do come back to check out Dota at some point in time, right?
But I think whether they stay or leave is irrelevant of whether the game becomes more complex or not. Like the guy returning to Dota obviously accepts the contract that is Dota 2, which is you're going to give me an addiction dopamine rush, and I'm going to learn another 500 useless pieces of information to jam in my brain before I die one day. And that's the contract, and we all agree to it, and we play a pub, and then he realizes he hates this game, and he goes and plays, Dune Imperium or whatever the hell he's playing this week that he's going to give up on in another week. But the guy who plays Dota 2 is playing it forever. So increasing the complexity, totally fine by me. The only counter argument I would give is like, you consistently add new things. Is there any world in which you take old stuff away to add new things?
100%. I think when they add in these new things, they should be taking some stuff away. Maybe not for this specifically, but I feel like with I think we have too many objectives in Dota. The map being big is fine, but I do feel like there are too many timings that have to be hit. Right,
okay, so
2 minute, 3 minute, 7 minute, yada yada.
This is what I've been thinking about a lot in the last year. Is that to keep players' interest, to keep the game fresh, you can just keep adding new stuff, and it works because there's always something new. But it kind of like builds up. It's like gunk, You add all this stuff and it becomes a layer, and then you take new stuff and you put it on top. You just keep layering this stuff, and it just keeps getting denser and denser until
it's like when the new city is built over the old city,
and you don't really. I wonder if you almost lose some of the identity at the core of the game because you can't identify what the hell is going on because there's just so many layers of complexity. It's like there's no heart to the game. It's just layers and layers of technicality that you have to figure out and optimize.
Yeah.
And if that's what you want the heart and identity to be at Dota, power to you. There is something to be said about Dota as an efficiency game, and I kind of respect that. But I always wonder over the history of the game if it's better to have gone in a direction where when you add something, you take something away, and you almost go through cycles or phases where like the game is going to be different because it has different stuff in it for a while, and then you take it away and you do try something new. Like maybe for 2 years we have all these talent trees, and that's like the cool thing of Dota, and then maybe one day they're just gone. Talent trees are gone. Now we're going to introduce facets.
No, I think
have facet trees and something else, right?
I do think facets was an opportunity for them to take away talent trees, and maybe they could have integrated like part of the talents.
Yeah, make it something a hybrid system new or something.
Yeah, where it's like, okay, at level 10 you get this, at level 20 you get this off this facet.
Because otherwise these things just like they're just there, and you feel like you have to do them. Like, are people actually excited to take a talent now in Dota 2? I would argue no. They do it because it's there and it's part of the strength as a hero, but it just becomes part of your build.
Yeah.
Like you're not thinking about it in an exciting way or something that changes the game.
Yeah, I would say 90% of the talents you don't actually think about. You already know what you're taking.
Yeah, you just look at it for 5 seconds, you click it.
Yeah.
And so, and that's okay to leave that system in there, but I don't think it's not the same as when they came out and people were like, oh, what do I want to take here? Because what is it going to do? And how does this change the hero? And, how can I use the hero differently? Which is what I think facets are right now.
Yes.
But in a year, are facets going to be that? Probably not. So
no, there's going to be a predetermined, this build is good,
right, and
this build is bad.
At that point, you just have to add another system on top of that. Like,
yeah.
And what is that? Here's every player can now build their hero before the game starts with a heart transplant or a leg transplant or something. I'm going to take like Tide Hunter's legs and put it on Axe or something. Like, how many systems and layers can you add before it's so cumbersome that everything just loses its identity and we're just in this mosh pit of like transfigured corpses of systems that nothing feels unique anymore because everything is, I'm not playing a hero, I'm playing this grouping of systems.
So you're saying at some point in time, Dota's going to become ability draft. You're just going to create your own hero.
I mean, there's kind of like no other direction to go. Like you just have to keep adding decision trees, right?
Yeah.
Just keep stacking decision trees for a player. But is that Dota? My point is that what Dota 2 becomes? Is Dota 2 a game of where I want to think about the creativity and strategy of playing my hero, or is it a decision tree matrix game simulator where like
which is
who can make all the decision tree decisions better,
which is where some of the nostalgia people saying like, I want to go back to this part of the game, even though I think if it was actually there, they wouldn't enjoy it. One part that people do identify as old Dota was it was an open system with which you created kind of like how to play the game, right? There wasn't objectives as much to focus on. There was just Roshan, right? There wasn't these timings so much of like, let's say glyphs and that sort of thing when it comes to defending high ground. I mean, so the simplicity did create a more open system.
But I just don't think that would exist today. Like people would optimize the hell out of that system in 2 days and everybody would play the same way.
Yeah, you're probably right.
There's too much on the line. Competitive esports is too big. When you're playing for, when you're playing for pennies in your grandma's basement against some guy from Florida on like 250 ping, and the grand prize is $200 and like a gift card to Starbucks, like the world's your oyster. I'm going to do this and this.
I'm going to play Dota the way I want to play it.
Yeah, I'm going to split push with Furion, even though it's trash. Like, congrats. But when you're playing for $5 million in Riyadh in like a couple months, you're not going to sit there and be like, hey guys, I really like split pushing. I don't even think it's that good, but like it's fun and creative. No, everybody is going to get pushed towards whatever is the optimal, because the second somebody starts beating you with their strat, you have to sit there and be like, well, are we going to take that, guys? Are we going to try and do it better? Or what do we have to fight against that, right? And it pushes everybody in a similar direction. That is the downside of esports. You remove some of the like, nice freedom feeling or whatever of a indie game from a small indie company, whatever you want to call it. We're never going back to that. Yeah. So that argument I don't buy.
But I do think that your point about like the talent trees just becoming automatic, I do think that's where you do want to, when you put something in, you want to take something out, right? Because this thing has become solved, you put in something that makes people like actually think about what they're doing again, that hasn't been optimized to death, and you take out the thing that has been optimized to death.
Yeah, or you change it, or you integrate it into the new thing you're doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Because as of now, it is just stacking. Because, God, we did that noob stream, and I'm only thinking about what the next noob stream looks like. When every hero, you have to talk about the fact that they have an innate ability and they have 2 facets, these 2 decision trees of like how you're going to play the hero this game. And some of them are very impactful, and some of them maybe not so much. Like the Sand King one we saw today, right? They're both Sandstorm facets. So like, even if you're not playing around Sandstorm, you're going a Sandstorm facet, right? So it's like, but there are other ones that it's like, this is a support build and this is a carry build,
which I think is cool. I think the concept's cool, but it's like, how much of all these are going to end up making people play heroes in a different way versus people just optimizing the way they think is the correct way to play a hero? That's, I guess, my internal debate. And I don't know. I'm not saying what Valve is doing is incorrect or something, but it makes me wonder of like, you add all these decisions and you make players choose between them. And I think the goal is to give people more freedom in terms of how they play a hero and how they use it in the right game so that they can shine. Like, this game, I'm going to use the Sand King this way, and it thrives and it looks amazing. And in another game, someone's going to play it a completely different way, and it will also thrive and look amazing. And that's a great goal, because that's really cool. You're giving people creative freedom and different ways to utilize heroes that people don't expect and to counter them. And there's more dynamic counterplay.
And that's always been the most interesting thing about Dota, is I think, is not only the balance has made it so that the heroes are unique, but also equally viable,
right? Or
at least close as you can be, I think, in a competitive game like this. Like, a very wide pool of heroes is viable for picking. And then even if you can make these splits between this hero can be played this way and this hero can be played this way, it increases the viability of those heroes and makes it so that, like, you could do crazy things, like maybe Crystal Maiden becomes a carry or some shit like that,
Right.
And you can play Winter Wyvern support or Winter Wyvern core.
I think that stuff's awesome. But my concern is that does it become so overwhelming that at the end of the day, people just pick one mode that works the best on the hero, and that just becomes the default, and they move on?
Yeah.
Because investing your time to figure out the adaptability of all these things when there's 150 heroes in the game and 200 items and 300 talent trees and 400 facets, it's like, dude, I can only play like 9 heroes in a tournament. like Skeeter's going to play Wraith King one of the two ways, and he's just going to enjoy it. And like maybe every 1 out of 10 games he changes his options. But when he's thinking about picking the hero, is he going to be able to think about all of the repercussions of going down one of those paths, or is he picking like, I know what this hero does in this path, and I'm going to pick him in the situations where that path thrives, and it just becomes one-dimensional.
It's too much information to process,
it's like overload.
so therefore you
simplify it.
You simplify,
and that's always been the balance of Dota from a competitive standpoint. I don't know how it'll affect the pub landscape. I think that is probably better.
I know one way it'll affect the pub life. You're going to get flamed from the get-go because you went the wrong facet.
Yeah,
people are going to be like,
pre-game flame.
What are you doing with this build?
100%. I think it's honestly probably better for pubs though, because people will just do random stuff they think is fun or cool.
Yeah,
and like that's awesome. I don't think it hurts that. Competitively, though,
some people will be miserable because they're, dealing with some support trying to play carry.
Oh yeah, but that
you're the meta.
If you're gonna get griefed, you're gonna get griefed no matter what. It doesn't matter how many decision trees it takes.
Dude, Slacks is gonna have a fucking aneurysm on this patch. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, he's whoever's playing with him, which is probably us. We're not gonna do much better.
True.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's cool to see where Dota goes, but I think they're always gonna make the game different, which I think is nice, and it always encourages people to come back, and it always makes sure that there's something cool to return to that is interesting and different.
Yeah.
And just at what point does it melt my brain?
Now, we're recording this literally right after DreamLeague. We finished up DreamLeague the day the patch came out and came back here and recorded. So we do not have enough time to break down the patch to you. We're not going to do a patch review where we go line by line. But I think next episode, it would be fun to do something like, like the 5 best individually, what we think are like the 5 best changes, maybe like 5 sleeper heroes or something like that. But we're going to be learning alongside you guys, and we'll come back next week and give you an update on what we think is going to be good for this patch. But all in all, patch is definitely interesting, and it's going to be fun to learn all this new stuff for sure. But how much does the overall game change? I guess we'll have to wait and see, but it seems like we feel like maybe not that much right now. But
yeah, that's my gut read. But usually my gut read's horribly wrong on these things anyway. So what do I know? I'm just some dude who plays the game.
You're an analyst. You're supposed to be able to have.
Analysts are just guys who pretend to know more. They just pretend really well, so they get hired.
That is kind of true. No, what analysts are actually just guys who, 1, can speak well about it, but 2, also are addicted to the game. So, like people are like, oh yeah, that guy really knows his stuff. Well, yeah, he's playing Dota like 24/7. Of course he knows this obscure mechanic because in the 20,000th hour of playing the game, he saw this one thing happen. So,
I resent that actually. I'm not an addict to Dota 2. I'm an addict to suffering. And Dota 2 is a vehicle towards that suffering, so true. I resent that statement.
Dota is probably
That's right. I just found the most efficient way to achieve my goals in life.
You get the purest suffering through Dota 2.
It's so good. I can't wait to just suffer through poor facet choices for another year. My dream.
Okay, so I think that wraps up this episode, honestly. Again, we'll come back and actually try and give you guys some ideas about the patch, but I think this was just kind of like our gut reaction to what the patch is as a big picture. And hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to be doing this twice a week here on Tundra's channel. And so we're going to record another one here in Sweden. This is also not our normal setup. Normally, this is going to be a remote show, but whenever we're at tournaments, we'll try and record in person like this. If you guys have any feedback or suggestions, we've done, I believe this will be our 10th episode of Not for Broadcast. So for those of you guys who have watched all of them, if you guys have any feedback or segments, suggestions, or anything like that, if you guys want to be able to do, questions from you guys, we can do that, maybe answer some of those, or tackle something that you're interested in. Just let us know in the comments below. And since we're on a new channel, it would be very much appreciated if you guys let other people know that we're here on this channel. But other than that, I think that wraps up the show. Thanks for watching.